It's Tuesday, the 16th of July, 2024. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Julian King, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Julian.
Sean, story number 1, the Australian share market has pushed through 8,000 points for the first time, spurred on by gains on Wall Street, on the back of hopes that interest rates will start falling in coming months.
It's taken 3 years to go from 7,000 points to 8,000 points. Mind you, in October last year it was around 6,800 points. Since then, it's up about 18%. The rise over the past 3 years has mostly been fueled by low interest rates post-COVID. In more recent times, the run since late last year, well, that's been fueled by expectations that rates will fall, even if they haven't. The sector powering the moves more than any other, at least locally, is the financials, and particularly the big four banks. Commonwealth Bank's at a record high. National Australia Bank was last seen at these levels in 2007. ANZ's around a 7-year high. Westpac's about a 5-year high. Industrial property giant Goodman, certainly that's worth a shout out. It's been a standout performer over the past 3 years, particularly since the beginning of last year. The tech stocks have also done well, but they're only a very small part of the local market, so they don't actually impact the ASX 200 that much. The materials index, which includes the big miners, that has a big impact on our market. Well, it's actually detracted from the ASX 200 over the last year. Generally, the large caps have done much better than the small caps, not just over the last year, but over the past 3 years.
Okay, so the bourse has pushed past 8,000 points. What next? Does it keep rising?
Question will be on my pay grade, Julian. The optimists, like BetaShares chief economist David Bassanese, say the local market is relatively cheap and unloved and may benefit if investors start shifting out of US large cap tech stocks. AMP head of investment strategy Shane Oliver, he forecasts the ASX 200 will reach 8,100 points by the year end, dragged along by rising share markets overseas. The flip side is that the market is fully valued, especially given where interest rates are. The upcoming earnings season, which kicks off in a little over a fortnight, could well be make or break time. There are also plenty of risks, not least an overvalued US share market, according to some. If Wall Street falls, so too will the local market. Plenty of geopolitical risk around from Europe to Middle East to Asia and the US, as well as fears of recession. I reckon if you're going to invest, check out a financial advisor. That's my advice.
Yep. Story number 2, several Australian banks will be forced to refund more than $28 million to 136,000 vulnerable customers after an investigation by the corporate COP found systemic high-fee charging.
ANZ, Commonwealth Bank, Westpac and Bendigo and Adelaide Bank have agreed to move 200,000 customers into lower fee accounts, which will cost them $10.7 million in fees annually, according to a report in the Fin Review. The banks will also write to a further 2 million customers to advise them of low-fee alternatives as part of actions agreed with the Australian Securities and Investments Commission. The investigation comes 6 years after the Hayne Banking Royal Commission, in which banks faced fierce criticism for their conduct, including similar instances of charging vulnerable people high fees.
Story number 3, the top complaints against airlines last year were about requests for refunds and flight delays. Together, they made up almost 3/4 of all complaints.
The industry-funded airline customer advocate said customers took 10% more flights domestically and internationally last year. Total passengers numbers were almost $68 million. The advocate, which is kind of the point of last call, received more than 1,400 eligible complaints last year, up about 9% in line with the jump in passenger numbers. The overall complaint resolution fell, and it took about 37 calendar days to be resolved. That average time taken actually dropped in the second half of 2023 to 19 days. That is good news, no doubt about it. Still, we need to get those number of complaints down, or at least the airlines do.
Story number 4, US President Joe Biden has called for calm and efforts to lower the temperature in the wake of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump over the weekend.
In a televised speech from the White House, which in itself is unusual, Mr. Biden said, and I quote, "While we disagree, we are not enemies, we're neighbours, we are friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we are fellow Americans." Mr. Biden said he had spoken to Mr. Trump and is grateful he's going well. The FBI said the investigation so far suggests the shooter acted alone, and also that another device, which media is calling a bomb, was found in the shooter's car. Meanwhile, the background of a man killed in the crowd, Corey Comparatore, has emerged. A firefighter, churchgoer and avid supporter of Mr. Trump. He threw himself over his family members to shield them when firing began. He was hit in the head and died at the scene. For his part, Donald Trump said he wouldn't let a potential assassin force him to change his schedule. Overnight, he was in Milwaukee for the opening of the Republican National Convention. He told US tabloid The New Post that the doctor at the hospital he visited called it a miracle.
And story number 5, the rental car sector is dumping electric vehicles in the US, with novice drivers finding them hard to charge and difficult to control.
Yeah, EVs have been a financial disaster for rental companies, notably Hertz, which has pulled back on plans to buy 100,000 Teslas after the car's resale values plunged. Last year, more than 4% of cars sold to rental companies were EVs. This year, it's just 1.4%, according to a report in the New York Times. Most rental car complexes at airports lack chargers. There's a problem. Another issue, making money renting EVs is harder than forecast. Also, many renters just aren't prepared for how quickly electric cars accelerate, leading to more accidents, higher insurance premiums, and finally, some companies found they couldn't get spare parts for EVs as quickly as they could for gasoline cars. Just looks like the love affair with EVs is waning somewhat.
Maybe. That's it, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Julian.
It's Tuesday, the 16th of July, 2024. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, then find our longer podcast called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform. I'm Julian King, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.